You look very tired.
Okay. Hey everyone, I am well aware that this is the end of service. Usually you go early, so it's okay if I'm a little late, but now I'm between you and the rest of your Sunday, so I'm going to try to read quickly. And yes, Pastor Eric did ask yesterday, and my response when my wife told me this, I said, I'll let him know if I can do it if I can get home. Because we almost didn't get home. Anyway, so hey everyone, for those that don't know me, my name is Nathan Chang, and I shepherd Taiwan House Church with my wife Irene. And for those that do know me, I'm happy and sad for you at the same time. We have two boys, aged 20 and 16. We've attended New Life Fellowship for over 10 years now. So I wrote here, my wife and I were invited to join PE, but actually he said, hey, who's available? So we went. So we were invited to join PE in Lynette in Fiji for a first ever away lay leaders conference in Fiji's capital, Suva. And thus, it became a mission trip. While our first night in Fiji was in the resort town of Nandi, where we were treated to clean rooms, amazing pools, good food, relaxation and comfort, that is not what was in store in the capital of Suva. The capital city was much more third world. And while I never felt unsafe in my time on mission, petty crime is rampant. So it's so rampant that every fast food restaurant, like a McDonald's, had its own security team in the restaurant to prevent robberies and guarding the door. The city was crowded, gritty, and it was buzzing with activity. Just a bit history here. Fiji is a British colony, and the two dominant races are Indian, because the crown, the British crown, it would exploit low-caste Indians and ship them as free labor. And then the other race is obviously indigenous Fijians, but they are very much at odds with each other and they are segregated. The entire schedule for us was planned and executed by long-term missionaries, Pastors Lim and Choi, who drove us everywhere and really did meet every need that we had. Our first night in Suva included a night service at a well-to-do Indian church, completely Indian, whose senior pastor was 90 years old. Pastor Eric, you're not allowed to pastor this church till you're 90. So PE gave a message about house church, and Irene and I gave testimony alongside Ed Pack and Noah Pack. Our second day in the capital started with a visit to the South Pacific Bible College in the mountains outside Suva. And finally, our last 2 days were at a church named CCC, which was part of the Assemblies of God. They're affiliated with AOG, that has actually been doing Living Life Bible study for 13 weeks before. And this 2-day conference that Pastor Eric would then actually provide them would complete their class and end with a graduation ceremony. So upon meeting Pastor Orisi and his wife Mede, you could see there was this almost palpable urgency behind this conference for this church. Once I met the participants, I felt very warm. They were all incredibly polite, kind, intentional, well-spoken, and very, very focused on taking this conference. While yes, things do run on island time in Fiji in a whole lot of ways that will frustrate you as Americans, this group of 28 or so participants were all so very, very passionate about house church. Over the 2 days of serving and preparing snacks, and yes, that is all that we were asked to do. Show up, prepare snack time twice a day, and give testimonies in between. It's harder than it sounds. It was hot. um, we would have so much time to have these intimate discussions about house church with these attendees. I met multiple couples, individual women and men, all so very enthusiastic about house church. And so I've participated in our seminars and conferences like many of you have. But something about being immersed in a historic church that's been there for decades, much older than ours, surrounded by a pastor and his leadership, all excited and united to do house church, that was different. That's different than what we experience here. So these elders of this church shared that they had actual weekly cell group meetings. They called them power groups. And they structurally looked and sounded similar to house church. They have, food, they break bread, they have praise, they have an icebreaker, something that they call it something different, but they have an icebreaker, and then they have Bible study, and then they take prayer requests. It lasts 90 minutes. That's it. And it's actually only supposed to last 60 minutes. But they knew there was no intimacy and deep fellowship. So one of my lunch conversations was actually 100% focused on how this particular participant, speaking for the whole class, or Fijians in general, felt they always knew this issue was there, but they couldn't describe it, they couldn't name it. But once they did, and once they learned from Pastor Eric and the team, they really felt like they could change it. They would share their perspectives on deep sharing, right? What we call deep sharing and vulnerable sharing, and how it made them feel exposed, as if their dirty laundry would immediately get shared across the entire church as gossip, and that they culturally have been taught not to share about their marriage troubles. Interestingly, my testimony with my wife actually had a component sharing how broken our marriage was before house church, and that house church saved our marriage. I shared that it was no different for us with this group that I was having lunch with. But even then, they were worried about how to get started. But interestingly, all these worries, all these hurdles, never did they say they weren't going to do it. Never. And they didn't. They really just weren't going to let these hurdles get in their way. It didn't diminish their passion at all. They still really, really were excited to do this. So they wanted to start ASAP. Moving on, their smiles, handshakes, kind words, hugs, lots of hugs. One lady in the kitchen while I was leaving even said she loved me. I was like, love you too, They had these huge banquet-style lunches. Everything made me feel so loved and welcomed, as if I was the VIP and they were reflecting Jesus on me, and that I was the one that was there to be served. From what I saw, they will have no issues generously and sacrificially leading house church ministry. Frankly, I think they one-upped us a couple of times in how we serve our conferences and our seminars. So one last thing I would like to share that I learned. We have an incredibly kind, loving, and wise senior pastor. I didn't write this part, but once upon a time I worked for this Dutch government, Dutch company, and they made me fly all over the world. And from time to time, I'm sure you guys work with people that you don't agree with or that you might have discourse with. That happened to me. And I remember, the leader of our region basically looking at me and just said, hey, just travel with him. I promise you. You travel with this person, you're going to love him when it's over. So, when you guys see Pastor Eric up here, he's fiery. He's like, I need to beat all of you down just a little bit with a little harshness. He's not that way. And when he was speaking to all of these, these different groups and giving his messages, he smiled a lot. I mean, he was so nice to them. I was like, man, it almost felt like he just enjoyed preaching to them more. No offense, right? But back to what I was saying. So he spoke to 3 different groups, preaching the Bible and challenging Christians about house church. And he did that having no preparation or context from the missionary couples for some of them. No slides, no handouts even on a couple of occasions. Just what I interpreted to be decades of experience doing, leading, preaching, and he put it all on display to bless these people. When I sat through each one of these messages, of course, I had the deja vu moment that some of you that have been here, for a while have, right? I've heard all these jokes. Yes, I've heard each of these messages multiple times, right? But it was different. I have to admit, it was just kind of different. PE, he didn't need to thoroughly prepare because this was all muscle memory, right? And it was very, very good. Each audience was taking notes feverishly, hanging on his words, vocalizing their praise, while he was really challenging them. Like, are you doing church right? Read the Bible here. This doesn't look like your church. It was very challenging. And as they were being challenged to do more, to save the lost, and make disciples, they were still so welcoming to all of it. So thank you, PE. I can honestly say I did take you for granted, as I would imagine every member of NLF has done from time to time. Thank you for bringing us, and what a blessing to see you work. I have to say that you truly are extending the reach of house church ministry by leading the English-speaking model and taking it to the ends of the earth.